Around 80 people showed up at a city council meeting this morning protesting job abuse and worker rights. Colin Campbell has a story.
DC residents are calling on the city council to pass new regulations to protect workers in the city. Around 80 people showed up at City Hall this morning to rally support for stricter labor standards and to share stories of job abuse.
I actually worked 3 40-hour weeks before I even received the check. And in the process of me inquiring about my wages, I was terminated. And the reason for my termination was they gave an explanation that was totally off the wall. So I actually went to the hour and wage board, and they instructed me and my wife that they didn't perform those services. So we were back to square one.
The Committee on Workforce and Community Affairs heard testimony from over 20 people. Those testifying said they have been affected by unenforced labor regulations, and they shared stories of not being paid for months at a time and not receiving the appropriate level of training for their job. The committee hearing comes a few weeks after President Obama called on Congress to pass an increase in the federal minimum wage from $7.25 an hour to $9 an hour. People attending the hearing say the hourly increase would be a good first step for workers' rights, but other regulations need to be put in place too.
Right now, workers don't have any kind of right to a real formal hearing. So if they testify credibly that they were promised a particular wage and they weren't given it, the employer can kind of get off the hook and not really ever have to answer that in any formal way.
At this point in the process, the council is just collecting information on illegal and unfair wage theft in the city. Many of the people in attendance today said they hope a bill addressing some of the issues will be considered and put to a vote in the coming months. Reporting for District Wire News, Colin Campbell.
American University is celebrating its lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer community with the 16th Annual LGBT Awards. The award celebrates students, faculty, and staff that have made significant contributions to the LGBT community this year. The Center for Diversity and Inclusion will host the awards on April 24th at 6 p.m.
2 generations of American University graduates are being honored with the construction of a new residence hall. Reporter Vivian Roussel is live in the studio with more. Vivian?
Thanks, Jackie. I went over to the north side of American University's campus to check out the newly named Cassell Hall, and I chatted with Timothy Staples to see how it got its name.
The Cassell family is such a wonderful, important part of our university historically.
Previously known as North Hall, the construction you can see here behind me will now be known as Cassell Hall. It's named after the donation made by the Cassell family. Jack Cassell is a graduate and a current member of the Board of Trustees here at American University.
Jack Cassell and his family donated $3 million to the university. The Cassell family is a legacy here at American, starting with Jack's father, Stafford "Pop" Cassell. This is the first residence hall on campus to be named after the giving of a charitable donation. It is also the first building to be built after Centennial Hall in 1987. The new residence hall will be home to over 300 upperclassmen, ranging from sophomores to seniors. Students are excited about the new hall, especially a future resident assistant, Courtney Taylor.
I'm really excited to live in the new hall. 1, because it's new. 2, because I'll have my own room, my own bathroom, which will be super nice, and just the photos seem really fancy.
Cassell is scheduled to open in the early weeks of August, ready to welcome students for the new year. Back to you, Jackie.
Thanks, Vivian. Plans for a boutique luxury hotel have been approved by the city of Washington, D.C. The hotel will be moving into a historic church in the heart of Adams Morgan. The church congregation abandoned the building more than 15 years ago. Since then, developers have been working on a plan to renovate the property. The hotel's developer said they feel it will add a great contribution to the community of Adams Morgan.
Well, it's going to bring employment, which will be very important for this time. Certainly business with the extra added people who will be staying at the hotel will take advantage of the wonderful neighborhood of Adams Morgan.
The hotel will feature 220 rooms, a restaurant, and a bar. A tower is also set to be built behind the church for additional rooms.
President Obama has nominated Walmart's Sylvia Matthews Burrell as the new budget director today. Burrell will take over the Office of Management and Budget. She will bring more diversity to the president's second-term cabinet if confirmed by the Senate. Nomination signals that the White House is trying to get back to business after failing to avoid the $85 billion sequester on Friday.
A baby born with HIV has been cured of the virus. She's only the second person in the world to be cured of HIV. Both the mother and the child were diagnosed with HIV during labor, and the baby was treated with aggressive drugs within the first 30 hours of birth. The child is now 2.5 years old and shows no signs of a relapse.
People who are diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder as children are more likely to have psychiatric disorders as adults. This is according to a new study from the Pediatrics Journal. The study finds that children with ADHD are more likely to have problems with substance abuse, anxiety, and depression as adults.
They may be more likely to need attention-seeking type behavior or more impulsive type behaviors. So therefore, they may be more likely to engage in behaviors such as risk-taking behaviors like alcohol.
The study also found that only 38% of adults who had ADHD as children were free of its symptoms as adults. This was one of the largest studies to follow children with the disorder into adulthood. The International Dairy Food Association is petitioning to remove artificially sweetened labels from dairy products. They're hoping that the products such as milk and yogurt will no longer have aspartame listed in the ingredients. The dairy industry has been petitioning the Food and Drug Association since 2009.
Catholic cardinals are holding their first official meeting today to set a date for their conclave to choose a new pope. But before getting down to business, they will discuss how to respond to the combined turmoils of a retired pope, child sex abuse, and other scandals.
Sexual misconduct is once again casting a shadow over the Catholic Church. Scottish Cardinal Keith O'Brien apologized Sunday about his misconduct. Cardinal O'Brien shifted courses from battling the allegations to admitting his sexual misconduct on Sunday. The cardinal is accused of abusing 4 men studying to be priests in the 1980s.
U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry pledges to give Egypt $250 million in aid. Kerry and the Egyptian president came to this agreement after a 2-hour meeting on Sunday. The Egyptian president promised to enact political and economic reforms. Kerry called the pledge a good faith effort and cited Egypt's extreme needs when asked about the aid.
Protesters continued to demonstrate against the American Israel Public Affairs Committee in D.C. today. Reporter Henry Corral caught up with the protesters during the demonstration yesterday.
Social activists are staging a 4-day protest against the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. The committee, also known as AIPAC, is holding its annual 4-day conference at the Washington Convention Center. This year, AIPAC is celebrating 65 years of U.S.-Israel relations. However, in Mount Vernon Square on Sunday, protesters rallied against the influential lobby group.
I'm here because of my concern about what Israel's actions are doing to the United States.
The U.S. sends Israel billions of dollars in foreign aid a year. Some rallygoers say that aid is fueling the conflict between Israel and Palestine. However, Code Pink, the non-profit that organized the 4-day protest, said the rally isn't about singling out Israel.
We are not anti-Israel. Israel can exist, has just as much right to exist as any other country, but Palestine has just as much right to exist as any other country.
As protesters flocked to the convention center, members of the Jewish community voiced their concerns over AIPAC's power over the U.S. government.
We say that when this AIPAC is supporting Israel, is gaining support, blind support to the state of Israel, this is an embarrassment to our religion.
The 4-day protest ends tonight as AIPAC's conference draws to a close. Henry Corrali, District Y News, Washington, D.C.
Coming up after the break, an abundance of deer in the Rock Creek Park area. We'll show you how the National Park Service plans to deal with the population problem.
And American University welcomes a new athletic director. We'll show you who when we return.